The GOP is cheering the Kimmel suspension and felt it was a long time coming. 71% think of the GOP. 71% of the GOP think the mainstream media is biased and should be punished and being upset by government influence. 64% of GOP already felt U.S. media was influenced a great deal by government interests. I think this is a crisis in misinformation. The reason why is because 90% on the mainstream side, 90% of conservatives get their news from a singular resource, Fox News. And this is the Fox News narrative and has been the Fox News narrative. The media is biased. Mainstream media is biased. Mainstream media is liberal, right? And there's a lot of government interference already. This is something that they've hallucinated. That doesn't mean it's real. Now, what's important here is that because this isn't real, you can have a conversation with people and explain to them why it's not real. And you should, okay? You should. A big chunk of conservative grievances stem from not recognizing that their ideas are not broadly popular, okay? And they want to punish people for not saying that their ideas are popular because they think that if they actually silence the opposition, they'll be able to get more people on board. They'll be able to live in this fantasy land where everybody goes, no, you know what? These opinions are great, actually. Fascists. Thank you, Austin. He's right.
Yeah, there are rare points in which I see a piece of data and it just sort of jumps off the screen at me. And this is one of them because I really just think it tells the entire story. And this is among Republicans. The media is biased and should be punished. Look at this. 71% of Republicans agree with the idea that the media is biased and should be punished. Republicans are absolutely loving what is happening right now to Jimmy Kimmel. Absolutely love the words that are coming out of Brendan Carr's mouth. The bottom line is that they believe that the media is biased and should be punished. So taking Jimmy Kimmel off the air, if there's government influence there, they're absolutely enjoying it.
Well, but punished by whom, I guess, is the question. How are Republicans, and how much are Republicans, as you're pointing out here, likely to, or what are they going to think about that this decision was made with government influence?
Yes, exactly right. So, it's one thing if the idea is, okay, Jimmy Kimmel's being punished by his own company, right? Being punished by ABC, being punished by Disney. But the idea that the government is influencing it, I don't think that Republicans are going to have much of a problem with it because take a look here. Republicans already think that the U.S. media and U.S. news organizations are, in fact, influenced by government interests. Look at this again amongst Republicans.
The irony is this is correct, just not in the way that Republicans think it is. When Republicans say like, oh, the media is biased or the U.S. media is influenced by government interests, yeah, on Israel, on American foreign policy, and yes, liberal media does actually present an antagonistic viewpoint to like their left flank, for example. We saw that with Bernie Sanders. But I think a lot of people see that, a lot of people feel that, and then they think the media being antagonistic towards any figure whatsoever implies that those figures are actually presenting good ideas, anti-establishment ideas. And that's how you arrive at Donald Trump. Okay? That's why there are so many Americans that go, I love Donald Trump and I love Bernie Sanders.
Look at this, 64%. This is, again, even before the Kimmel news broke, 64% of Republicans.
You are the reason Twitch is being dragged to Congress. You are going to get dragged through the mud, just as you should be after doing nothing but inciting hate and violence for years. I truly hope that the rotten douchebag you are gets permabanned from all socials. This is what I mean, brother. You have made up this power that I hold in your mind. You have decided to not understand what I represent, okay? And it's fine. It's good to have some villains. But I always say, recognize who the real villains are, okay? Like, do you really think that a Twitch streamer has this much power over your life? Do you really think that in a world where I am silenced and suppressed on all social media platforms, let's say it happens, right? Let's say the government kicks in and they're like, we need to make sure that this one guy is done with, okay? He's dealt with. Do you feel like that is going to materially improve your life in any capacity? You're going to forget about it. It's still going to suck. And I'll give you an example, one that I use all the time. Donald Trump spent very little time fixing the prices. Donald Trump spent very little time trying to fix the housing crisis. Houses are more unaffordable than at any other point in American history right now. Okay? That's the real issue. Healthcare and the price of healthcare keeps going up in this goddamn country. That's the real problem. The cost of education keeps going up in this goddamn country. That's the real problem. Donald Trump is not addressing any of those problems. He's not addressing it at all. What he has addressed so far is the 49 trans athletes that were participating at the collegiate level have been barred from athletic competition. He did that. Did that fix your life? Is it cheaper now to purchase groceries? Is it actually easier for you to get health care? Do you think that you won't get saddled with medical debt that will carry over for the rest of your life and haunt you if, God forbid, something awful happens to you? This is small-minded shit. And I'll take it one step further, okay? Charlie Kirk was an advisor to the president, okay? Charlie Kirk's positions were broadly reflected by the administration. You're mad at a guy who doesn't even have any crumb of power on the left flank of politics, okay? This guy thinks he knows what everyday people go through, lol. Well, not until that long ago, I was also going through the same shit that everyday people go through, and you also did not say that I was wrong. Is shit sweet? Are you doing great? Here's the thing, and I said this with the Brandon, with the Brandon administration, right? When push comes to shove, you can't just vibe session your way out of this. You can't just simply say, nah, everyone's doing much better right now. Okay? If your pocketbook is hurting, no amount of no, your pocketbook is fine coming from the administration is going to make you feel more comfortable about your finances. You can't just lie and propagandize your way out of it. You can actually offer distractions, red meat to the base. We banned Jimmy Kimmel. We banned Hasan, right? Like that might make some people excited for a brief moment, but you're back to square one once you forget that even took place. You can't hold that as a W for months, for years, especially when you're still hurting financially. Do you understand? Wait, are you actually going to get banned? Who knows? Maybe. It's very clear that there's a lot of appetite for this. This is what they want. It's very clear that like Republicans have deluded themselves into thinking that like regular Republicans, I don't mean like the administration, regular Republicans, especially online, especially on Twitter, have decided that like their lives will be materially improved if The View is banned, if I'm banned, if a bunch of other people that they're annoyed by are banned, not realizing that that's not going to make their lives any better. Not realizing that, especially someone like myself, like I'm advocating for their material conditions to improve as well. They just don't see it. They don't understand it. They think that I am on a vengeance quest towards the right. I never have been, and I never will be. That is precisely the reason why. I always advocate for universality, for universal programs. I always say, this guy loves me and but also hates me at the same time. He loves the hate. Yeah, pretty much everyone hates you for good reason. Yeah, for great reasons. Exactly. Totally. This is also a falsehood. Pretty much everyone hates you for good reason is idiotic. Most people don't know who I am. And there are a lot more people who like me than there are who despise me. It's like chronically online shit, except obviously chronically online shit is becoming more and more a permanent fixture of real life shit as well. Is it? You radicalize the youth, they will know? Yeah, radicalize the youth in the direction that it's actually moneyed interests that harm their futures instead of their goddamn neighbors that came from a different country or their neighbors who have a different sexual orientation. I know, real scary stuff. Radicalizing them to what? Have empathy for one another? I know. Radical empathy. Very scary. How much have you raised for Antifa? Come on, man. You've been in here long enough that you are not this illiterate. Stop LARPing as a illiterate car guy, okay?
Believe that the U.S. media is influenced by government interests a great deal. We're talking 2/3 of Republicans. And then you get another 26% who say are somewhat influenced by government interests. That totals up to nearly 90%, when, of course, you're not just rounding, as if you would, you would be 90%, but we're talking about 89% of the public, of Republicans, who say that the U.S. media is influenced by government interests. So no, Republicans, A, they like the idea that Jimmy Kimmel's being punished, and B, they're not at all going to be against the idea that the government might be influencing it, because they already think, 2/3 already think that the government is influencing U.S. media organizations a great deal in this country.
Why not? I mean, or just turn off the channel.
They could do that.
What is there is a big question about what Jimmy Kimmel's next move is. There's reporting from within, sources saying that ABC is trying to find a way potentially to bring him back on air. What's the conventional wisdom around this?
Yeah, what's the conventional wisdom? Well, I'll go to the prediction markets here. A chance that Jimmy Kimmel Live returns by the end of 2025. It's just a little bit more than 50%, 56% the last reading that I was able to get. By the end of this month, it's 20%, about a 1 in 5. So at this point, the prediction markets basically have it as a coin flip that Kimmel.
This is terrible commentary. I'm gonna be honest. I will keep saying that. Like, who gives a about the prediction markets, man? Anyway, Senator Ted Cruz says the FCC chairman Brendan Carr's statements about Jimmy Kimmel were dangerous as hell and compares them to the kind of rhetoric a mafia boss would use. Cruz says that while he likes Carr a lot and is happy that Kimmel's show got shelved by ABC, he believes Republicans will come to regret using government power this way.
No. Look, I like Brendan Carr. He's a good guy. He's the chairman of the FCC. I work closely with him. But what he said there is dangerous as hell.
For people that are listening, because this is going to be, quote, controversial, so I want to make sure we explain it clearly. When you say no and it's dangerous, explain and run this out, the slippery slope that this can open, so that people understand why we're saying it.
So the Federal Communication Commission is in charge of granting broadcast licenses. So ABC, NBC, CBS, they have licenses from the FCC. It is true that under statute, they're required to be in the public interest.
Yep.
What he is saying is Jimmy Kimmel was lying. That's true. He was lying. And his lying to the American people is not in the public interest. And so he threatens explicitly, we're going to cancel ABC's license. We're going to take him off.
This also makes no sense because, this balancing act doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't, because then your position is you should let people lie, right? And a lot of normies are going to look to what you're saying and go, actually, I don't think that people should be able to lie, especially about my big, beautiful president. It's also incorrect. Jimmy Kimmel didn't say anything that was even remotely controversial or a lie, okay? It is true that the Republicans desperately were pointing the finger of blame without even knowing who the suspect was at the notion that it was not one of their guys. And it's true. They did do that. He didn't even openly say the shooter was MAGA. And even if he did, it still is not something that you can punish by the FCC regardless. That's not within the purview of the FCC. That's not, the FCC does not have power to dictate content on its airwaves beyond censorship over certain pre-established curse words, slurs, things of that nature. Okay?
Off the air. So ABC cannot broadcast anymore. And I got to say, he threatens it. He says, we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way.
Yeah.
And I got to say, that's right out of Goodfellas. That's right out of a mafioso coming into a bar going, nice bar you have here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
Oh, God. Ted Cruz is a podcaster also doing accents. What the This medium has devolved.
And I got to say, look, I understand. Jimmy Kimmel has mocked me so many times I cannot count. The corporate media, they are dishonest. They are liars. I hate what Jimmy Kimmel said. I am thrilled that he was fired. But let me tell you, if the government gets in the business of saying,
what
we
you
don't
can't
like
say
what you, the media, have said, we're going to ban you from the airwaves if you don't say what we like. That will end up bad for conservatives. It reminds me of, you and I are both fans of The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
J.R.R. Tolkien. It reminds me of the Ring of Power. And it is so attractive. It's sort of like conservatives are saying, wait, wait, if we have government, we have power.
Yeah.
We can ban the media. Let me tell you what will happen. Going down this road, there will come a time when a Democrat wins again, wins the White House.
They will get rid of every
Democrat
talk show host in
FCC,
America that's a conservative. They'll get rid of every podcast. They'll get rid of everybody
they will
on YouTube.
silence us. They will use this power, and they will use it ruthlessly. I think it is unbelievably dangerous for government to put itself in the position of saying, we're going to decide what speech we like and what we don't, and we're going to threaten to take you off air if we don't like what you're saying. And it might feel good right now to threaten Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
But when it is used to silence every conservative in America, we will regret it. And so, again, I like Brendan Carr, but we should not be in this business.
I like that the Democrats are going to do that, except they're not. They never have, and they never will. The notion that the Democrats would, if they ever get back into power, utilize the federal government in this way is a hysterical position. Okay, it's just an utterly hysterical position. Democrats never have and never will do that. Okay. There was another thing that I wanted to cover here. Oh, here it is. In 1983, 50 media companies controlled 90% of the U.S. media market. That number in 2025 is now down to 5. The Telecom Act of 1996 reduced the FCC regulations on cross-ownership, leading directly to this rapid consolidation. All of your media, just like all of your groceries, are unironically owned by like 5 to 6 mega corporations. Okay? Every single aspect of your life where you feel like you have the diversity of choice is built on a lie, a mountain of lies. Okay? The United States government, I used to say, is like 50 companies in one trench coat. Now it's like 5 companies in a trench coat. Okay? This corporate consolidation exists in every facet of our lives. But the way they hide it is by keeping the different brands under one umbrella, of course, directed by a singular group of people. And directionally, they're always on board because no matter if there are 50 companies or 5, there's still always going to be capital accumulation in mind. But that's not enough. It's not enough because when you got 50 different companies, all of which want higher profit margins, they obviously are still going to compete with one another, okay? But that market consolidation has made it much easier to give less and demand more in return year over year. This is it. The natural predisposition for a company under capitalism is to monopolize, is to engage in vertical expansion and vertical integration and horizontal integration. Mergers and acquisitions are even a further developed, even worse version of that. And on the independent media side, you have people who are very clearly also invested in massaging whatever kind of narrative you hear. The question for you, for all of you in this community, even the haters and the lovers alike, is that really what you want to live under? Do you want to live in a world where you don't realize that the government is controlling all flows of information, but they're still doing that regardless? Because that's where we're headed. That's where we're at right now. These are, I would say, the last few years, if not months, of being able to hear any kind of real dissenting, earnest opinion. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it doesn't matter. And the only way we were able to get to this position is because the internet was the Wild West for the longest time, where the interest of capital accumulation from social media companies actually aligned with the endless, unlimited flow of information and even misinformation as well. But that is shifting. That is changing. These old are beginning to realize that the stuff that's going on online actually has a lot of influential power over the collective consciousness of Americans. So now they're putting the clamps on the internet as well. They don't need to do that for mainstream news because mainstream news demonstrates the same exact bipartisan consensus that exists in American politics. Things that everybody takes for granted and you never hear discontent on, whether it be any sort of anti-capitalist initiative, all the way from maybe abolishing the paywall structure that exists for healthcare, whether it be even demanding that we have public housing, whether it be a jobs guarantee by the federal government. These are things that are not discussed in the mainstream at all. There are certain places where these sorts of opinions are discussed freely online. Israel is another example of this as well, of course. There is almost complete capitulation to America's foreign policy goals and foreign policy desires, okay? Especially as it pertains to our unlimited loyalty and support for Israel, no matter how insane or violent Israel gets. And you're losing that on the internet as well. That is where we're at. It's here. It's here. I know Cardinal Dolan said the church would make Charlie Kirk a saint. I know. Here's another example of the Trump administration doing business as usual, just transparent corruption. 3 major white-collar criminals were convicted in fraud schemes in order to pay back over $800 million. Then Trump pardoned their criminal offenses. Now the SEC is dropping enforcement, and they won't have to pay the money back. Devin Archer, Trevor Milton, and Carlos Watson each stole vast amounts of money. Archer targeted pension funds and a Native American tribal entity and was ordered to pay nearly $60 million. Milton was found guilty of lying about the supposed technical achievements of his electronic truck maker, Nikola. Prosecutors recommended that he pay more than $660 million back to shareholders. Watson was convicted of defrauding investors in his digital media company, Aussie Media, and was assessed penalties of nearly $97 million. This, by the way, is like a woke guy, too. Remember, it doesn't matter because Aussie Media was like supposed to be woke. So this is yet another perfect example. This is yet another perfect example that like these guys care about capital more than anything else. It doesn't matter how you're making the money. Each cozied up to the Trump world in seeking pardons. Archer's pardon application highlighted the assistance he provided the prosecutors and congressional GOP about his former business partner, Hunter Biden. Milton hired Brad Bondi, brother of Attorney General Pam Bondi, to help handle the criminal case and the SEC complaint. Watson cultivated Trump allies, including the White House pardon czar, Alice Mary Johnson, and lawyers with connection to the president. The dismissals of the civil cases further underscore how Mr. Trump used the levers of power to help affluent allies who have found themselves crosswise with the federal government he now leads. According to a June 2025 review by Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee, former President Donald Trump's pardons and commutations in his second administration have voided over $1.3 billion in legal obligations for convicted fraudsters, including some involved in schemes approaching or exceeding $800 million. These pardons have absolved criminals of financial restitution, fines, and in some cases, prison sentences. Here's another example. Philip Esformes, a Florida healthcare executive whose 2019 conviction for a $1.3 billion Medicare and Medicaid fraud scheme was met with a commuted sentence from Trump in his first term. He served only 14 months of a 20-year sentence. Jason Galanis, a serial fraudster and a con man, sentenced to 15 years for an $80 million scheme. After providing testimony for a Republican impeachment investigation, he was pardoned by Trump, which wiped out his obligation to pay $84 million in restitution. Ross Ulbricht, the creator of the dark web marketplace Silk Road, who was sentenced to life in prison. This is one of those where it's like, this is one that's like, you know, maybe a little bit more of a controversial one, not in the bad way, to be fair. But the ways in which this stuff happens is totally, openly, transparently corrupt. Todd and Julie Chrisley, the reality TV couple, was convicted of bank fraud and tax evasion with outstanding restitution of over $22 million. They were pardoned by Donald Trump. This is just the mob. Pay fealty and penance to the Godfather, and you're good. Ted Cruz saying, chill, we are sounding like the mafia. One must ask, does this help you? Dear Elon Musk, sir, Hasan Piker calls the death of Senator Tom Cotton, a tweet on X. Senator Rick Scott, landlords, fascists. He made 5+ videos on YouTube calling you a Nazi, by the way. Zionists, he means Jews. Says someone's got to do it regarding Trump. Literally, none of this is true, but it doesn't matter. He also plays terrorist propaganda videos stated upon support for terrorist groups, Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis. Ironically enough, he's talking to Elon Musk, where the videos are on Elon Musk's platform, for the record. He would support an IRA-style terrorist organization in the USA to fatigue the population regarding support for Israel. He's clearly protected due to his constant violation of TOS punishments. And then it's like all petty, made-up grievances. I have evidence for each point if you'd like to see more. Maybe you can do something because no one else will. God bless. This is the same guy that said this. The reason why we're looking at this is because here it is. That same guy said this. And by the way, it might not surprise you to find out that this person is a VTuber who, of course, has engaged with lolicon, drawn pornographic material of children. Okay. And he is super pro-Israel. He apparently stalked Jaden Animation for a while as well. And he is a pro-Israel lolicon who defended Dr. Disrespect as well. He said, "Hi, Jew here. I uniquely get shit from the far right and the far left, and I can say with 100% certainty, I would entrust my life to a Hitler-hiling, anti-Semitic, Jews-control-the-universe Nick Fuentes Groyper named Kill Rape Jews Groyper 42069 over a moderately leftist college student that goes to overwhelmingly peaceful protests and celebrates Charlie Kirk's assassination. That's how bad it is." Isn't this loser Canadian? Yes. But apparently, post-October 7, he moved to Israel, is what people were saying. I am from Israel, and this is my politique. Yeah. He said, I hate moderate college campus leftists who are anti-Israel so much that I would rather entrust my life to a guy who, one, denies the Holocaust, and two, demands more of it. Okay? At that point, you have to understand, like, this is just an out and about admission of your own mental illness.